Crooked Hillary Clinton is the most anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment candidate ever to run for office.
Donald Trump, earlier today at the NRA convention in Louisville, not only reinforcing some concerns about the Second Amendment, but labeling his likely opponent as Crooked Hillary. Continuing now on Newsmax Prime with our panel here on the anchor desk, former Congressional Chief of Staff Glen Downs, from Newsmax Washington, the former Congressman from Illinois, Michael Patrick Flanagan, and Skyping in from Maryland, syndicated columnist and economist at the University of Maryland, our good friend Peter Morisi. I got to tell you something, Glenn. It's not heckling, it's labeling and branding. And when Trump comes up with these little epithets, this Crooked Hillary, man, does it define his opponent.
He's done that all throughout the primary process, and now he's going to pivot over to the general election, and he gets his opponents reacting to him. He sets the narrative, and it seems to be working every time. And the fact is that she's put plenty of bullets into that gun, and he's willing to go places.
Pun intended, since we're talking about the NRA convention.
No, but he's willing to go some places where some of the other potential Republican nominees would not have been willing to go. And there's some there when it comes to Hillary and Bill Clinton.
There is. And let me go to Michael Patrick Flanagan, who is from the city of broad shoulders and sharp political elbows, Chicago. Is it branding genius? You know, for a political novice, Trump has come up with this way to brand his opponents, and it must be working, Mike.
Well, it is working, but I think it's part of this end of politically correct speech. It's calling it what it is. And considering all the different epithets he could have attached to her, corrupt Hillary is probably the least brutal one he could have come up with, and it's the most communicative one. I mean, the scandals involving her husband, and the presidency that they had or shared, depending on who you're talking to, is limitless. I mean, whether it's the X-Files, the cattle futures, the Rose Law Firm, the list goes on and on and on right into today with the server and the emails. They live by their own rules. They make their own rules. They don't care if the rules are legal or not. And we all need to get over it. And with their help with the friends in the press, basically they've won every argument like that.
And here comes Trump the disruptor. And let's go to Bow-Tied Peter for his take on the epithet Crooked Hillary.
He also used heartless Hillary. Yep. Hillary's already got a credibility problem. People don't trust her. We know that. They don't think she's honest. So you really have to brand her that way when you've already got that done. But I like heartless Hillary. Because the themes I've been hitting in my appearance today is that Hillary really is kind of a dull, mindless ideologue. She projects herself as someone with great experience. Look at how she's dealt with Benghazi. Her view has been, well, you know, dealing with security at the embassies was below my pay grade. I had people who dealt with that. Could you imagine how the mainstream press would treat a CEO who had a terrible accident at a chemical plant? And he said, well, you know, safety at that chemical plant was my safety director's job. It wasn't something that I was concerned about. She's a very heartless person. This is all about being the first female president. Heck knows we're long overdue for a woman in the White House. But let's have one that really is genuine and sincere and authentic. And Hillary is none of those things. All
right. My vote is still not a vote for her, but in terms of the sobriquet, I like that Crooked Hillary. But anyway, let's go to the phones to an area I know pretty well, to Congress, Arizona. Marianne is on the line. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. How are things out there in Congress?
Oh, it's getting warm.
Yeah, I know it's warming up. And so is this campaign. Give me your take on the campaign. And I understand you are favorably disposed toward Mr. Trump.
Oh, I think he is great. And these women that take offense to what he says are not real women. Because a real woman would let it roll off her back and listen to what he's saying about our border, our economy, our security, our vets, and know that he is for the people. He is not for the money. He is not to be king of this country. He wants to be somebody that's going to take care of what he loves, and that's the country and the people that's in it.
And Marianne, we appreciate your perspective from a rapidly warming Congress, Arizona. I know it's gotten hot down in the Valley of the Sun, already to triple digits. You know, it's interesting, panel, when we hear Marianne talk about Trump's appeal to women. Now, at the speech today, I thought it was very interesting. I could tell where some of the consultants were in helping him, saying, imagine a single mother in Florida or a senior woman in Ohio. I mean, he had the speech laced with references to politically significant states, and yet, Glenn, his delivery is kind of like a project foreman reciting what it is we got to get done that day. It's not done with a rhetorical flourish, but it still seems to work.
Well, obviously he came to this, speaking of branding like we did before, he came to this campaign with a brand of his own. And so when Donald Trump has said things in ways that other politicians wouldn't have said them, and sometimes it's come out wrong or in a way that was not very delicate, people kind of giving him a pass, said, that's okay, we know what he means. They say feel like they know Donald Trump. We know Donald, we know what he meant, and he meant the right thing.
Yeah, it's a nice position to be in if you're running for public office. And speaking of this run for president, earlier today, the Donald was phoning into Fox and Friends, and he spoke of a potential vice presidential pick. Let's look and listen.
He's been such a great supporter. And he actually said, you know, he's a fantastic historian. He actually said that nothing like this has ever happened in the history of our country. It's one of the great phenomena of all time. And I was watching him, I said, really? That's pretty exciting. But he's a tremendous guy.
But he's on the short list, right?
Absolutely. I'll say yes, because he's been such a supporter.
Now, he sounds like that's almost a spontaneous decision. Oh, sure, Newt's on the list, and he's a great historian, in case you didn't know that. Michael Patrick Flanagan, we got to know Newt pretty well when he was the speaker, and we were part of that first Republican majority in 40 years. How likely do you think a Trump-Gingrich ticket might be?
I don't know how likely it is. I'm in the minority on this one. I think he'd be a terrific vice president and a great choice, but I think he'd be better outside the government and helping with the Council of Economic Advisors or with an assortment of other areas where he can provide endless great ideas and then have the facility to action them. Kind of being a Clark Clifford or an Averell Harriman or someone like that, standing outside the administration and helping enormously from there rather than being burdened with having to attend funerals and doing other vice presidential duties.
A senior statesman.
Trump will have done a great job.
All right, yeah, we'll see about that. Hey, there's one other thing, and Peter, you might get a kick out of this. It goes back to this politically incorrect behavior. Chris Christie, as we know, one of the early guys to endorse Trump, to pull out of the race, and it looks like Chris has been gunning for number 2. There was an episode last night at a fundraiser in New Jersey. I guess we'd call it weight shaming. Let's listen to the Donald on Chris Christie.
I'm not eating Oreos anymore, you know that. But neither is Chris. You're not eating Oreos anymore. No more Oreos for either of us, Chris. Don't feel bad for either of us.
All right, maybe he's a little more ecumenical with that. It wasn't quite as tough. And for purposes of full disclosure, I certainly have had a battle of the bulge through the years, Peter. But this kind of irreverence really resonates with people and seemed to work pretty well last night in New Jersey.
Well, there was a bit of a double entente there because, you know, Oreo, the Nabisco people are moving production of Oreos to Mexico, and that's one of the things that Donald rails against. But you have to remember that Chris is someone who's making significant progress in losing weight. He's down by about 100 pounds. And so to rib him when he's doing well with his diet, essentially, he's just one of those people. He's had that operation to help with it and so forth. He's one of those people who's challenged. It's not, purposeful. He's not a person that lacks self-discipline.
Yeah. Well, so look, and I'm one of those guys too, for purposes of full disclosure. And but I thought it was fairly lighthearted.
There are more than one of us on this show tonight, DG.
So look, I thought it was not as tough as it could have been, and I think the economic component is important. Hey, with about a minute left, let's go down to Alabama for Roxy and her take. Roxy, the floor is yours. What's on your mind?
I just want to say I'm Trump all the way. I think he speaks what the people want to say and nobody hears. And he seems to want to do everything legally and in the right way, and I'm impressed. And I feel like that everybody should have that right to bear arms. We need the right to defend ourselves.
Roxy, let me ask you this. Are you going to amend the famous cheer down there in Tuscaloosa? Does it go from Roll Tide to Roll Trump? Do you see that happening moving forward?
Roll Tide to Roll Trump.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm for Alabama and Trump, too.
All right, it'll both work. Well, you can just interchange them there. Roll Tide. Roxy, thanks so much for the call. And we're interested in hearing what you have to say. There is lots more ahead here on Newsmax Prime. Here is the number to call, 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. Look, agree, disagree, make a joke about weight with me. That's okay. I'm happy to hear from you. When we come back, he was one of the co-founders of AOL, and now he's an author. He's Steve Case, and we'll hear from him as Newsmax Prime continues.